Toxic sister, toxic family, secret millionaire, hidden wealth, entitled family, Thanksgiving drama, family betrayal, sister drama, narcissistic parents, invisible child, golden child scapegoat, real-life story, true story narration, jewelry authentication business, self-made millionaire, family entitlement, money and family, cutting off toxic family, sibling jealousy, lying whispers channel. Last Thanksgiving, my little sister walked into my old bedroom just to grab a phone charger, bumped my open laptop, and in under 10 seconds found out that the loser of the family was sitting on over $12 million in her business account. Within 5 minutes, my parents were calling me selfish for not putting at least half in her name. My sister was ugly crying about how I'd betrayed her, and a room full of relatives suddenly decided they had rights over money they never helped me earn. In their heads, I magically turned into the cold, greedy rich sister overnight. In reality, I spent decades being the invisible child, working insane hours, building a company from scratch, almost going bankrupt, losing sleep, and even offering my sister a well-paid position in my own company. The same sister who kept saying she wasn't born to work and would rather drift from one pointless course to another. If you've ever felt like your family only sees you when they want something from you, stay with me to the end. I'm going to tell you how I went from dead weight to owner of a multi-million-dollar jewelry authentication firm, why I hid everything from my family, and how one single Thanksgiving dinner blew up decades of favoritism, secrets, and pure entitlement. If this already has you hooked at the start, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and share this video with someone who has a complicated family. It helps a ton so Lying Whispers can keep bringing you real stories that sound fake, but aren't. My name is Claire. I'm 38, and for a long time I genuinely believed I was some kind of manufacturing error in my own family. When I was little, things were fine. Not sitcom perfect, but stable. I was an only child. My parents were present in that awkward, emotionally constipated way a lot of parents are. My mom, Linda, was practical and not very affectionate, but she checked my homework and signed my permission slips. My dad, Rob, wasn't big on heart-to-hearts, but sometimes had take me fishing at this little lake outside town. Just us, a couple of sandwiches, quiet water. We weren't the Brady Bunch, but we were okay. Until my sister arrived. I still remember the night like a weird, foggy nightmare. My Aunt Kathy shook me awake in the middle of the night and told me to throw a few clothes into a backpack because Mom was at the hospital. The baby was coming early. I was 8. My sister, Madison, everyone calls her Maddie, was born way before her due date. Tiny. Wires everywhere. Machines beeping. The phrase I heard over and over was, "She's so fragile." Fragile lungs, fragile immunity, fragile future. And with that word came the rules. Claire, don't get too close. Claire, don't cough near the baby. Claire, you can't touch her if you've been around other kids. That was the first time I felt it, an invisible wall sliding down between me and the rest of my family. They were all on the Maddie side. I was on the potential health hazard side. When she finally came home, the house turned into a sanitized bubble. My mom went full biohazard mode. Bleach, disinfectant, Lysol, wipes, air purifiers, every surface smelled like a hospital. She literally set up little hand sanitizer stations in each room, like we were living inside a pediatric ICU. And I became the risk. Any sneeze, any cough, any my throat feels funny meant the same thing. Claire, grab your bag. You're staying at Grandma's for a few days. Just until Maddie's okay. Erase the mess it up. Part 1. Loved my grandma's house. My grandma Jean baked cookies, let me stay up late watching TV, and had these old costume jewelry boxes I was obsessed with. But even as a kid, it eventually clicked. I wasn't being treated. I was being removed. Like I was a walking virus that might break their miracle baby. It felt like there was a big, invisible sign taped to my forehead. Claire, you are a threat. Maddie is precious, you are dangerous. Kids notice more than adults think. We might not have the right words, but we understand patterns. No one ever sat me down and said, Maddie matters more than you. Instead, they said things like, Maddie needs extra attention after everything she's been through. Claire's strong. She's independent. She understands what that meant in practice. Everything Maddie did was a big moment. Everything I did was background noise. I threw myself into school. Straight A's. Extra credit. Little academic awards. I tried to be the kind of kid parents brag about. My mom, meanwhile, always had Maddie's appointment binder in her hands: pediatrician, pulmonologist, therapist, specialist number 57. If I told my dad I aced a test, the response was, "That's great, kiddo. Just be careful not to catch anything, okay? Your sister can't get sick." The moment that really stuck with me happened when I was 12. I spent months secretly practicing a piano piece for the middle school talent show. I used headphones, kept the volume low, rehearsed after everyone was asleep. It was going to be my thing, my first solo on stage. On the day of the show, Maddie woke up with a slight fever. I'm talking barely above normal. She was tired and sniffly, but not dying. My mom looked at me with that apologetic but neutrally face. "Claire, we can't go tonight. Your sister's not feeling well. You understand, right?" So I went alone. No parents. No grandma. No aunt. No one in the audience who came just for me. I played my song, hands shaking, heart racing, to a room full of other people's families. 2 weeks later, Maddie had this awful squeaky recorder performance. She massacred Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star for like 30 seconds. My entire extended family showed up. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Phones out, recording, cheering like she was at Carnegie Hall. That was the day I realized I could become a brain surgeon, win the Nobel Prize, and cure seasonal allergies, and it still wouldn't compete with the story of the fragile baby who needed everyone. I was the strong one. The independent one. Translation: the one they felt safe ignoring. So I did what a lot of ignored kids learn to do. I became my own cheerleader. High school, for me, was not about popularity or prom. It was my launch pad. While Maddie was perfecting her too overwhelmed to function routine, fainting at convenient times, skipping classes, declaring she was too fragile for deadlines, I set one simple goal. Get out of that house. For good. Not by running away. By leaving with a scholarship, a diploma, and 0 strings attached. My desk looked like something out of an organization YouTube channel. Color-coded folders, planners full of deadlines, sticky notes on sticky notes. I worked part-time at a local diner after school and hoarded every dollar. Whenever Maddie said she was too tired, someone covered for her. Whenever I said I was exhausted, the answer was, "You'll be fine. You're tough." I joined every club I could fit around my shifts: debate team, school newspaper, peer tutoring. Nobody at home knew or cared what I was doing. They were too busy managing Maddie's latest crisis. When college application season rolled around, I did it all myself. I researched schools, wrote my essays, requested recommendation letters, filled out financial aid forms during free periods. My guidance counselor basically became my stand-in parent for anything academic. Acceptance letters started showing up in the mail, real physical envelopes. I kept them hidden in a shoebox under my bed because I knew exactly how that conversation would go. But what about Maddie? She needs you. You're really going to abandon your family? When I opened the letter with a full-ride scholarship to a solid state university, I took it to the public library, sat in a corner by a big window, and cried for almost an hour. Not because I was sad. Because for the first time in my life, I could see a version of my future that didn't revolve around being pushed out of the way for someone else. I broke the news over dinner. I got a full scholarship to state. I'll be moving at the end of the summer. My mom blinked. Not proud, not excited, just calculating. That far? What if Maddie needs you? My dad added. You know we can't help with expenses. Everything's tied up with Maddie's medical bills and tuition. I told them calmly. It's covered. Tuition, housing, meal plan. I've got it. Maddie rolled her eyes. Okay, relax. You'll be back in less than a year, you'll see. I didn't come back. Movie Day said everything I already knew. My parents couldn't drive me because Maddie had some big thing at her private college, a sorority event, a performance I don't even remember. My Aunt Kathy loaded up her car, helped me haul boxes up 4 flights of stairs, and set up my dorm room. The congratulations I got from my parents came later, as a photo on my phone, Maddie standing next to a brand new car they were financing for her, so she could get to campus. I never had a car. I barely had bus money. In college, I could finally just be Claire. No strong one, no backup caregiver. I crammed for exams, survived on coffee and cheap ramen, juggled part-time jobs and internships. And for the first time, no one compared me to anyone. I graduated with honors. My parents weren't there. They were out of state at one of Maddie's events. She was on her second major at her second expensive school. If that sounds wild to you, buckle up. It gets worse. After college, I landed an entry-level job at a well-known auction house. Think old money, museum-level art, security guards who glare if you breathe near a painting. They stuck me in estate inventory, the least glamorous department. Our job was to catalog everything wealthy people left behind when they died: furniture, paintings, silverware, and endless boxes of what everyone casually called costume jewelry. That's where my childhood at Grandma Jean's kitchen table came back to save me. Growing up, I used to organize her jewelry boxes like a little museum. I'd line up brooches, earrings, necklaces, trying to guess what era they were from just by the metal or the clasp. I didn't know it then, but I was training my eye. One day, I was going through yet another cardboard box labeled miscellaneous jewelry. Most of it was cheap, lightweight, badly plated pieces. Then I picked up one brooch that felt wrong. It looked simple, but the weight was different. The clasp was more complex. The metal had a warmth to it that cheap stuff doesn't. I spent my entire lunch break researching makers' marks and signatures. I stayed late using the company's subscription to specialized jewelry databases. The more I looked, the more convinced I became this was not costume jewelry. This was the real deal, a high-end antique mixed in with junk. I printed photos, pulled up examples of similar pieces, highlighted details, and finally knocked on my boss' door. His name was Mr. Harrison, and he was not exactly known for his patience. "Sir, I think this brooch might be misclassified. The marks line up with an early 20th century European designer." He barely glanced up from his phone. "Claire, that whole lot's already tagged as costume. We don't have time for redos." I slid the documents in front of him. "I know, but look at this. The hallmark, the construction, the stone setting. It's different. I'm pretty sure this is important." He sighed, took the brooch, and muttered, "Fine. I'll have it checked. If it's nothing, you're cataloging that whole lot alone." A few days later, they called me into a meeting. The piece was authentic. Rare. Valuable. It was moved to a special auction. When it sold, the winning bid was more than I'd earned in 2 years of hourly wages. After that, every questionable jewelry item somehow found its way to my desk. I enrolled in online gemology courses, devoured antique jewelry books, spent weekends at estate sales just to practice spotting the difference between trash and treasure. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was actually good at something that had nothing to do with Maddie or her needs. It was just mine. A couple of years in, I had a track record. I'd found undervalued pieces, caught fakes before they embarrassed the company, and helped bring in serious money. One afternoon, Mr. Harrison called me into his office. I braced for bad news. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You know you're wasting yourself here, right? You could be running your own authentication firm." I actually laughed. Out loud. "Me? The girl whose family couldn't be bothered to attend her graduation? The one with no rich relatives, no investors, no safety net? Start a business in a luxury niche? With what? Vibes?" But that idea dug its claws in. I started doing tiny side projects, nothing that conflicted with the auction house. Private collectors, small antique stores. Word spread I was the woman who spots what everyone else misses. Eventually, the side work got big enough that I was choosing between sleep and sanity. I had to decide: stay safe as an employee or bet on myself. I did the one thing no one in my family would have predicted. I bet on myself. I drained my savings, took out a loan, used my car as collateral, rented a sad little office above a noisy Chinese takeout place. The building smelled like fried food, the Wi-Fi dropped if it rained, and the paint was peeling. But it was mine. My company started with a thrift store desk, a chair I literally found on the curb and scrubbed for dear life, and a backpack with a loop, basic tools, and my battered laptop. I charged less than the big firms to authenticate pieces for local dealers. What I really wanted wasn't cash, it was a reputation. There were a lot of nights I woke up before dawn with my heart racing, convinced ID ruined my life. I'd calculate how many months of rent I had left if no new clients showed up. Every bill felt like a brick on my chest. You, watching this right now, would you automatically hand over the results of that kind of risk to someone who never lifted a finger for it? One of the antique dealers who knew me from the auction house came in with a huge lot of Victorian jewelry. He wanted a full report before he sold any of it. I basically moved into the office for 2 weeks. It was just me, those pieces, my reference books, and the constant hiss of the fryer downstairs. Most of it was exactly what the paperwork said it was. But 2 brooches bothered me. On paper, they were later reproductions. In person, something was off: the weight, the stones, the wear pattern. I dug deeper. Old catalogs, archive photos, obscure collector forums. Cross-checking hallmarks until my eyes hurt. Turned out they were originals. Extremely rare. Thought to be lost. When the dealer got my report, he almost cried. At auction, just those 2 pieces brought in a life-changing amount of money. He insisted on paying me a hefty bonus on top of my fee. Watching that number hit my account, it was the first time I saw more money in one transfer than I'd saved in my entire adult life. That's when it clicked: this wasn't about surviving. This was a scalable business. I stopped accepting every lowball job that came my way, raised my rates, refined my contracts, reinvested everything into better equipment, software, security, and training. Slowly, that sad little office got too small for what I was building. By year 2, I had enough steady work to hire someone. That's when Jenna came in. Fresh out of a gemology program, quiet, sharp, constantly talked over in her old job. I saw a lot of my younger self in her. She started as my assistant. She's now my head of authentication. She's worth her weight in gold, and then some. The business grew faster than I did. Out-of-state clients. Then international. First a bigger office downtown, then 2 additional locations in other major cities. And this is where a detail comes in that changes everything about what happens later. I offered my sister a real chance before all hell broke loose. By then, Maddie had dropped out of 2 pricey colleges, bounced through a marketing program, dabbled in content creation, and tried approximately 7 different Find Your Passion schemes. Every time the story was, it just doesn't feel right. They don't value me. My mental health can't handle this environment. My mom loved to say Maddie just hadn't found her place in the world yet. Funny how no one ever wondered if I had found mine. One Sunday dinner, while I was doing my usual background character routine at the table, my mom started venting about how lost Maddie felt: no job, lots of bills, no direction. Then she dropped, "Maybe you could see if there's some little things she could do at your antique shop? Just something small." I took a breath. Part of me thought maybe this is our chance to actually be on the same team. I had an opening for a trusted admin position, coordinating clients, managing calendars, handling confidential documents. Solid salary, health insurance, actual career path. The next day, I called Maddie. "Hey, I've got a job open at my company. Admin, you be front-facing with some big clients, but I'd train you. Pay is good, benefits, profit sharing down the line. If you're willing to take it seriously, I'd rather hire you than a stranger." Silence. Then a snort of laughter. "Claire, I'm not built to sit in an office pushing paper for old stuff. I'm meant for bigger things. To be seen. To be appreciated. Plus, you know how bad my anxiety gets. I can't handle being stuck in a routine 9 to 5. I swallowed everything I wanted to say. "Okay. Totally your choice. If you change your mind, let me know." She never did. Later, my mom texted me that Maddie just isn't suited to that kind of work. Remember this: I offered my sister a well-paid, stable, real-world job inside the company I started. She turned it down because she didn't want that life. Keep that in mind when we get to the part where she claims she's entitled to millions because we're family. While my company was taking off, my family still thought I was making barely above minimum wage, ringing up dusty trinkets at some strip mall antique store. I didn't flaunt anything. It's not my style. I bought a comfortable house in a good, not flashy neighborhood. Drove a nice but not instantly recognizable car. My real splurges were invisible top-tier security, specialized equipment, secure vault space, software licenses, international insurance. On Sundays, I'd show up to family dinner in jeans, a sweater, hair in a ponytail. No glam. No statement pieces. Well, except for the times I wore legitimately insane jewelry historical pieces I had on consignment just to see if anyone would notice. No one ever did. Maddie, meanwhile, loved to show off. Designer bags she got on sale, watches from a brand collab, last-minute trips she insisted were basically free. I authenticate luxury goods for a living. I can spot a fake logo or a finance lifestyle from 20 feet away. I knew exactly where a lot of that money was actually coming from. Because at the same time my business was finally thriving, my parents were quietly drowning in debt. Aunt Kathy was the one who finally spelled it out. My parents were behind on their mortgage, still paying for Maddie's abandoned degree programs, covering medical procedures that sure looked like cosmetic work. One evening, between making digs about how I never cared about status, my mom sighed. Your sister is under so much financial pressure, we've even talked about selling the house. That house, for all its ghosts, it was still where the last bits of my childhood lived. The idea of them selling it while Maddie kept posting beach selfies with new bags made my stomach churn. So I did what the good daughter in their script would obviously do. I helped. On my terms. I set up an automatic monthly transfer to their account. No name. No explanation. Enough to cover the biggest bills and let them breathe. When my mom mentioned the mystery deposits, half worried, half thrilled, I shrugged it off. I've been saving, cutting back, living simply. I figured I could send a little sometimes. They filled in the rest. Claire is so selfless. She's probably living off instant noodles to help us. Meanwhile, a single corporate contract I closed in a week was worth 6 or 7 times what I sent them all month. Maddie started showing up with more treats. More trips. More stuff. I didn't need a detective badge to guess where some of that cash had come from. Nobody asked if that felt fair. Of course they didn't. Then came the phone call that felt like a preview of the explosion to come. My mom called me sobbing. Honey, we don't know what to do. Your sister wants to go back to school for her MBA. It's such a great program, but it's a private university, and we just can't afford it. I took a breath. Okay. There are plenty of strong MBA programs at public schools. Much cheaper. Maybe that's a better fit? Silence. Then. You don't understand. Maddie has always gone to good schools. She has a standard. We can't just put her anywhere. And then the line that made my jaw clench. You're so good with money. Do you think you could increase what you send, just for a few years? Until she's on her feet? I could have said no. I had every right. I was already subsidizing their bad decisions without a word of thanks. But at that point, I wasn't ready for the nuclear tantrum that would follow a hard boundary. So I increased the transfer. It barely made a dent in my business accounts. But every month, the story about poor Claire sacrificing everything got heavier. Here's the irony: while I was quietly funding the lifestyle that would let Maddie focus on grad school, the very same business school invited me to guest lecture about luxury markets, authenticity, and sustainable growth. I, the daughter with the not real job, was being flown in to teach MBA students how to build a company. That Sunday, my mom texted, "Are you coming to dinner? Maddie wants to show you the brochure for the program." I replied, "Can I'm working." If I told her where I actually was, the entire fantasy would collapse. And I wasn't ready yet to watch them rebuild it on my face. Then came that Thanksgiving. About 2 weeks before, my mom called me in full "my life is over" mode. "Sweetie, my back is killing me. The doctor says it's a herniated disc. There is no way I can cook for the whole family this year." I could have said, "Then don't." But honestly, I was tired of pretending my mom's dry turkey and box stuffing were some kind of holiday miracle. So I said, "Let me handle dinner this year. I'll have it catered." "We can't afford a caterer, Claire." "It's okay. I've been saving up. Just promise me you're not taking out a loan for this." If she had known that one contract ID signed that month could pay for that meal 10 times over, yeah. Different kind of phone call. I hired the same high-end catering company I use for client events, the kind that makes you question why you ever bother cooking. For my family, I watered it down. I found this insane deal. It was cheaper than you think. Thanksgiving morning, I got to my parents' house early to receive the food, set up the table, and make everything look nice. I brought my laptop because I needed to monitor a live auction in Europe. A client was considering a bid on a major Art Deco necklace. I laid out the china, polished the silver, organized the serving dishes. Maddie walked in, took one look at the professionally plated salads, and wrinkled her nose. Seriously? Store-bought? Mom's homemade stuffing is so much better. She complained right up until the first bite. Then, magically, the food wasn't a problem anymore. After the main course, I slipped upstairs to my old bedroom, the one that still looked exactly like I was 17, to check on the auction. Maddie's room, by the way, had been renovated 3 times. Mine was stuck in a time capsule. I opened my laptop, logged into our secure system, and pulled up what I needed. Our business account dashboard. Quarterly profit summary. The contract for a $500,000 authentication project in progress. The European auction platform. I had several tabs open just in case the client texted go, and I needed to act fast. The auction was still underway, so I left my laptop on the bed, screen on, thinking I'd be gone for, 2 minutes? I went downstairs to grab coffee. That was the mistake. I left it open. Maddie went upstairs without knocking, like she always had. She was hunting for a phone charger because, shocker, she'd forgotten hers. She walked into my old room and saw my laptop. Open. Logged in. Pages full of numbers, graphs, and English labels like net balance and profit. Right at the top of one tab was our current net business balance at that bank, just over $12 million. Below that, the pending contract for almost $500,000. Another tab showed quarterly profits in the multimillion range. She might not have understood the terminology, but she understood the dollar signs. She came down the stairs holding my laptop like she'd just found a bomb or a winning lottery ticket. "You guys need to see this," she yelled, stepping into the dining room. She swung the laptop around so everyone, about 20 people between relatives and close family friends, could see. "Look what Claire's been hiding from all of us." Silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. On the screen, in boring corporate font, my company's account balance, 12.something million dollars. And a lot of other very big numbers. My mom started laughing. Like, genuinely laughing. "Oh, stop. That's not funny. Claire can barely pay her own rent working at that little antique shop." I walked the rest of the way down the stairs, took the laptop from Maddie, closed a few tabs, and left the main account page up. "It's not a joke, Mom. It's our business account," I explained calmly. "I own a jewelry authentication firm. We work with private collectors, wealthy families, and international auction houses. The company did really well the last few years. That's the business balance, not my personal checking account, but yes, it's a lot of money." The room went from silent to chaotic in seconds. An uncle asked if I was sure that was all legal. A cousin joked about cartel connections. A family friend said, "I always knew you were smart." My mom's smile dropped. She went pale, then bright red. "So you're telling us you've had millions and you just let us struggle? Pay loans? Talk about selling the house? I send money every month. I've been doing that for years." "Pennies," she snapped. "Little pity payments while you sit on a fortune." Maddie's eyes filled with tears on cue. "You watched me suffer, not knowing what to do with my life. Stuck, stressed, and you didn't say anything. You lied to me." I took a deep breath to keep from laughing in disbelief. "Maddie, I offered you a job. A real one. With a salary, benefits, growth. You turned it down because you didn't want to waste your life in an office." She blinked, remembering for a split second. Then she doubled down. "Yeah, well, I didn't know you were secretly rich. That's different." She didn't want to work. She wanted the money. My dad, who had been unusually quiet, finally chimed in. "Look, kiddo. At the end of the day, we're your parents. We raised you. That money is part of the family, too." And that was the moment something snapped inside me. I had spent decades swallowing hurt and resentment like it was my job. I looked around the table at people who didn't show up for my milestones but somehow felt entitled to my bank account, and I let the words come out. You didn't raise me into this. You pushed me out of the way. You shipped me off to grandma's every time I sneezed. You skipped recitals, award ceremonies, my graduation because Maddie might feel left out or too tired. My mom gasped.
Don't talk about your sister like that.
You know, she's been through a lot health-wise. She was fragile. I get that. She is not fragile anymore. But you kept treating her like glass to justify every choice you made. Meanwhile, you didn't save a single cent for my education. I put myself through school. I paid my rent. I fed myself. And then I turned around and helped you financially for years. My dad slammed his hand lightly on the table. That's enough. We did the best we could. We gave you everything. I let out this short, bitter laugh I didn't even recognize as mine. No, Dad. You gave Maddie everything. I got leftovers. And I turned leftovers into a business.
You didn't fund that.
You didn't guide that.
You didn't even ask about it.
My mom, voice shaking with rage now, cut to the chase. So, what are you going to do? How much are you sharing with us? Because it's the least you can do. Maddie, ever the main character, dabbed her eyes and added, I'm not asking for the whole thing. I just need, like, $2 million to wipe out my debt and start over on the right foot. That's nothing to you. I'm your sister. I stared at them and asked the only question that made sense. What exactly do you think you've done to earn that? Silence. Nobody blinked. Finally, my mom said the quiet part out loud. We're your family. That should be enough. In that moment, I realized that if I stayed, I'd end up caving the way I always had. So I didn't. I closed my laptop, picked up my bag, and stood up. I'm not dividing millions of dollars between people who could barely be bothered to show up for me. I don't owe you a retirement plan. I don't owe Maddie a bailout. I don't owe anyone here anything except basic human decency, and right now, even that isn't being offered to me. My mom started yelling that ID changed and let money corrupt me. My dad called me ungrateful. Maddie was wailing about how ID ruined the family. In the background, I heard someone joke about my buying Maddie's MBA and maybe a new car for each of us. I just walked to the front door. I left the house I grew up in through the same door ID walked through 1,000 times, but for the first time, I understood ID never actually been allowed in as an equal. Driving home in my quiet, expensive, totally unremarkable car, my phone buzzed nonstop.
Calls.
Texts. Notifications. I didn't pick up.
I didn't cry.
At least not that night. I was too numb and too tired to do anything but drive. In the hours after I left, my phone basically turned into a weapon. My mom's messages swung wildly. How dare you walk out on your family? We need to sit down and discuss this like adults. Your sister deserves a share of your success. I've already talked to a realtor about houses in a better neighborhood. Meanwhile, Maddie dove straight into social media warfare. She posted long, emotional rants on Facebook and Instagram about her millionaire sister who let her family suffer while she hoarded wealth. She talked about feeling betrayed, about how she had supported me emotionally while I secretly got rich. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in 10 years popped up in my DMs to lecture me about family values. An old classmate commented that it was sad how money changes people. And then came the flying monkeys, the third-party messengers toxic families love to deploy. Your mom is heartbroken, just sit down and talk to her. It wouldn't kill you to help your sister more. At the end of the day, money comes and goes, but family is forever. Funny how none of them mentioned that ID offered Maddie a real job. That I'd been sending my parents money for years. That I built my company from nothing, with no help from any of them. Details, right? Naively, I thought it would stop at texts and posts. It didn't. The Monday after Thanksgiving, I walked into my company's lobby and nearly turned back around. My parents and Maddie were sitting on the sofa by the front desk, looking way too comfortable. My receptionist, Jenna, looked like she might throw up. They said they had an appointment for a jewelry consultation, she whispered. I brought them into a conference room. They walked in like they were meeting with a financial advisor to go over an inheritance. My mom started. We had a family discussion and figured out what's fair. Interesting definition of family discussion when the main person involved wasn't invited, I said. She ignored that. You have more money than you could ever need. So you're going to set up trust funds. One for your sister, one for us, and maybe something for your cousins who've always supported you. It's not like you'll miss it. Maddie, to her credit, was at least blunt. I'm not asking for half. Just enough to really start my life. 2 million would be plenty. My dad added. And your mother, and I would like to retire. Somewhere warm, maybe Florida. We've worked so hard for you girls. It's time you gave something back. My voice came out calm.
Too calm.
Gave back what, exactly? You didn't pay for my degree. You didn't help me start my business. You didn't invest in my training or my office or my staff. The only money of yours involved in my life is the money I sent you. My mom snapped. Money isn't everything. We gave you life. A roof.
Food.
That's the bare minimum, I said. And even that, you gave Maddie in double portions and me in halves. The volume started climbing. Maddie slid into a chair and started crying, full performance mode. You're so cold now. Money turned you into someone I don't recognize. Sisters don't let sisters struggle like this. I looked right at her. You're struggling because you keep refusing to take responsibility. You turned down a stable job I offered you. You've had more chances than most people I know. You didn't want work. You want a shortcut. In that silence, something inside me hardened. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, went to scheduled transfers, and canceled the monthly payment I'd been sending my parents. You can add this to your family meeting notes as of right now. I'm done funding your decisions. My mom looked like I'd slapped her. You wouldn't dare. I just did. They refused to leave. Voices got louder. Accusations flew. We're going to tell everyone who you really are. You think that money will protect you? I stood up, walked to the door, and motioned for security. Please escort them out. And make a note that they're not allowed back in without my written permission. Watching my 60-something parents being walked out of my office building while shouting about how money has poisoned me was surreal. Painful. But I won't lie, also freeing. The next few weeks were a mess of unknown numbers, fake email addresses, and attempted back-channel messages through employees and clients. I hired an attorney and had formal cease-and-desist letters sent to my parents and to Maddie. The letters spelled out, in legal language, that continued harassment or attempts to damage my business would have consequences. Suddenly, the public script flipped. Now, according to them, we never wanted her money. We just wanted a relationship.
Claire changed.
She pulled away from her family. They also started leaning hard into the moral high ground. We're praying for her soul. She's lost sight of what really matters. The only family member who reached out like an actual human being was my grandma Jean. She called me and said, in her no-nonsense voice, I heard about Thanksgiving. I just want you to know I'm proud of you. You did this on your own. It is not selfish to protect what you've built. I cried harder on that call than I had the entire week before. It was like that 80-year-old version of me, clutching her toy in a spare bedroom at Grandma's house, finally heard someone say, I see you. You did good. A few weeks later, she came to visit my office. We spent the afternoon side by side at my desk, sorting through a new collection of antique jewelry, just like we used to at her kitchen table. Only this time, the name on the glass door was mine. From what mutual acquaintances tell me, Maddie has settled into her favorite role, the injured party. Her posts are all about toxic siblings, greedy relatives, and people who forget where they came from once they get money. At one point, she even announced she was starting her own jewelry authentication business, as if you can swap years of training, niche expertise, and industry contacts for a couple of YouTube tutorials and an Etsy shop. This from the woman who turned down an actual salaried job in my company because she wasn't meant for office life. Occasionally, someone sends me a screenshot of her showing off a luxury bracelet that is so obviously fake it hurts, or a caption about knowing your worth so the universe can deliver. I don't hate her. I don't wish her harm. Mostly, I feel tired. Because I know how much energy it takes to maintain a lie, and she's building her entire identity on one. Today, years after that Thanksgiving grenade went off, I can finally say this without flinching. I'm okay. I moved to a new house, upgraded my security, tightened my inner circle. My company is doing better than ever. Some high-profile clients actually told me they respect the way I handled my family situation, clear boundaries, no mixing business, and emotional blackmail. I use my money in ways that make sense to me. I invest, I donate to causes I care about, I pay my team very well, I take my staff to dinners at places my family doesn't even know exist. More importantly, I learned that being someone's child does not mean you owe them your entire life. I'm still in therapy, still working through guilt, anger, the grief of what I didn't get as a kid. But now, when I picture 80-year-old me sitting on a suitcase, being shipped off just in case she's carrying germs, I can look her in the eye and say, "You were never the problem. The way they treated you was." If you're watching this and you recognize yourself the invisible one, the strong one, the family ATM, the emotional support child, I want to ask you something. How much are you willing to pay, in money and in mental health, just to stay in a place where you were never really seen? If there's one thing this whole situation taught me, it's this: money doesn't change who people are. It just turns up the volume. I didn't become a millionaire by stepping on my family. I did it by working myself half to death, taking risks no one would have backed me on, learning a weirdly specific skill, and reinvesting again and again. I offered real opportunities. I gave real, sustained financial help. When the truth came out, my family didn't see effort or sacrifice or resilience. They saw a jackpot they felt entitled to. Now, I don't justify my choices to people who never bothered to listen to my story in the first place. I owe loyalty to myself,
To the team that believed in me.
to my grandmother who always saw me, to the girl who played piano for an empty auditorium. And to you watching this, I'll ask, do you think I was wrong to cut them off? Would you share millions with people who refused to work with you, but lined up the second they smelled money? Tell me in the comments in my place. Would you give my sister money after she turned down the job and then tried to publicly shame me? I honestly want to hear what you would do. If you made it this far, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm this story was worth your time and helps Lying Whispers keep bringing you wild, real-life stories like this one. And if you're new here and haven't subscribed yet, this is your sign: subscribe. Turn on all notifications, and don't miss the next story about betrayal, family secrets, and friendships that went very, very wrong. If there's someone in your life who loves playing the victim while dodging every bit of responsibility, share this video with them. Let's see if they recognize themselves. And you, what would you do? Comment below, subscribe, and share.